Hey guys, today I would like to sculpt this big guy, but let's pause for a second. This is what happens when an alligator falls in love with a snapping turtle. But let's start now. Today I like to try something new, super sculpey ultralight. Shout out to Ace of Clay, I've seen him using it a lot, so I thought I'd give it a go. We have a big sculpture, a lot of weight, and I want to save weight and clay. The ultralight is baked and hardened and cooled down, and I cover it completely with bacon bond. And he's ready for the next steps. I need to roll out my green clay so I can cover the baked core of ultralight and I can start sculpting. Now I trim off the clay. Most of the time my next step is drawing in my center lines. They help me for orientation and proportion. I start adding clay to the shoulders. All I want to do is build up volume and have a good foundation. When I get to the point that I'm happy with the volume of my shoulders, most of the time I use a wooden stick to clean the rough surface in the scale. I'm adding his clavicle bones now. I think this is a very important step because the chest muscles are attached to the clavicles and also to the sternum, and some of the bony parts you're gonna see later because there's just skin over the bone and no muscles and no fat, and they give this character a very lifelike look. I'm drawing a line onto his neck to find the location of his big neck muscles. Drawing in guidelines is always useful. This will help me find his eyes and also where his forehead ends and his eyebrows begin, what I just did. And here you see me building up volume for his massive jaws. I'm adding also more volume and details to his neck. When I'm happy with the silhouette and the form and shapes of my muscles, I start cleaning them up by adding clay to the little holes and fill them, and not trying to smush the clay and lose all the volume I have previously built up. Because if the model is too flat and you just smush the clay too flat, you lose a lot of shadows, depth and contrast in your model, and it will look very flat. But we want a big strong character. At this point I thought I need to continue with his face, building up volume, giving him that mean look of a character I have in mind. Working on his cheekbone and mixing human anatomy with animal anatomy, creating a creature character, is so much fun. You have to try it. I really like to give my characters that vivid look by adding enough clay, building up volume that creates nice highlights and shadows. It's a very slow process, filling all the little holes and gaps between the clay, having a good transition. But at the end of the day, it will pay off with a great looking character. But it's also not everything about just adding clay. You have to know how to use your tools and move clay around to create flat surfaces or create round edges. The most fun part for me on a sculpting project is when I reach the point that I can clean the surface using loop tools or rake tools and create skin texture or bring everything together having a very organic look. It's like being in the zone. Very relaxing mood. I can spend a lot of time doing this. Here I'm using the backside of my brush to make space for his eyes. For some reason my camera didn't record it how I made the eyes, but it's time to make some teeth now. I used ivory colored clay. They're all baked now and I can put them into his gums. His skin is clean and organic enough, so I can start drawing lines on his chest to visualize how the scales will flow over his massive pecs. I use cling film to form the shape of the scales, pressing into the clay, but be careful, not pushing too hard and mess up the previously sculpted forms. That way we get the look of muscles under his scales. Using a texture roller comes in always handy. It saves time and it looks pretty good. I come to the point where I started sculpting the big scales on his shoulders and his neck. Them scales took quite a while to finish, and also they stretched my level of patience a lot. I come to a point where I thought, oh man, I can't be asked anymore. Also, I'm using a texture roller again to roll over the scales to give them the same texture as the chest, and I will speed up this whole thing. Enjoy watching me doing this fiddly work. I needed a break of sculpting scales because my patience was going even more down, so I thought, let's do the pointy bits, give him that little spiky bits on his neck. I mean, they took also quite a while doing, but it was something for a change. Now I can come back to the scales. One or 2 hours later, I finished the scales and I could start giving the spiky bits their texture, so he looks more like an alligator or snapping turtle dude. And here I'm using cling film again, creating more scale patterns, following the rhythm of the shape of the forms I have built, so that will create a more natural look because the scales follow the forms. The same goes for his head. I do the same rhythm, the same technique like on the chest and everywhere else to create the scales and give him that alligatory look. All the scales, wrinkles, alligator, snapping turtle looking bits are finished, and it's time to clean up the model using isopropyl alcohol, a soft brush, getting rid of fingerprints there maybe left or too hard edges to make it look a bit more organic, and we can get ready for baking. After cooling down, he's ready for making his shell using aluminium. And also super sculpey firm. As usually, I smudge the whole thing full of bacon bond so nothing falls off, also spreading it with a brush and cover the whole piece in super sculpey firm. Make sure there's no air trapped in or air bubbles, because that could cause to a lot of problems like air bubbles, cracks or other funny things we don't want to have on this late stage of the model. Also, we need to add more bacon bond to this big guy, spreading it apart and sticking everything together so nothing will fall off. The rim needs a nice edge, so I'm using just a big roll of clay and forming the rim, pressing it into the fresh shell and blending it together. I have blended everything together now, and I can draw in some lines what help me to place the next spiky bits, what make him look more snapping turtley. All spiky pointy bits are at their right place now. I'm just checking everything sits nice and snug, and I can start blending them together using just a wooden sculpting tool. Using a loop tool, adding more texture to the spiky parts. Back to a soft brush, cleaning everything with alcohol. I baked him one more time. Everything is cool now and I can start adding washes. Technically, I'm getting advantage of the green clay and the bright clays, just washing the whole model with different shades of washes like green, purple and sepia washes, because the green clay will be my highlight color and the washes will sink into the creases of the scales and give me a good contrast between the individual scales. And every wash what is too much on the model I just wipe away with a bit of kitchen roll. And it's a fun technique. It's fast and simple. This is it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed watching me sculpting this character, and don't forget to watch my other sculpting videos. Thanks for watching.